Hey everybody, it's Alchemisted, and I want to talk to you about some computer issues I've been having. This PC was not a workhorse PC like the laptop that I used to have, so I've been relying on it a lot the past year, and it started to show. It was starting to show a little wear and tear. I had to sort of stop for a while and do some maintenance on it and make sure it was running well. Change the thermal compound, oil the fans, that sort of thing. It's working pretty well now, so I'm thinking I'm going to be resuming converting and rendering of footage. Now, again, there's also like a problem with time to record, and there's also a problem with how long it takes to render and convert and such. I'm a one-man army doing this on one PC, so that's it. It takes some doing to schedule that stuff out. So I am going to be working on getting updates back to the channel now that the computer is back up and running, and that's pretty much it. That's pretty much that's pretty much what's been going on. Why the updates have thinned out is because of my computer just sort of wearing down after a year of hard use. Rendering and converting videos, because it's very resource intensive to do so. Okay, so let's talk about what happened yesterday. Yesterday, the FCC chair, Ajit Pai, voted in a 3-2 party line vote, 3 Republicans, 2 Democrats, to repeal net neutrality. Now, before we begin, I want to tell people, first of all, freak out, because freaking out is constructive, and if you're going to freak out, I would like you to visit that link below at Battle for the Net to contact your congressman, your state representatives, to freak out at them over this. If you're going to freak out, please pick up the phone and do so towards them. That would phone calls really do help. The phone calls are what killed SOPA, essentially, among other things. So if you're going to freak out, please call them and do so. But I want people to cut down on the doomsaying, because even though the net neutrality has been repealed, that doesn't mean that it is gone. And here's the thing that people are sort of missing: is a lot of people who are watching this, who were watching this situation unfold, knew that this resolution was going to pass. They knew that Ajit Pai was going to get the votes he needed to repeal net neutrality, because net neutrality has been a Republican talking point for a long time. It's 3-2. Republicans have the majority of the FCC, and Pai was one of the highest paid attorneys for Verizon. He is the definition of an insider. And he was always it was always his intention to destroy net neutrality regulations on behalf of telecommunications giants. That's why he was put at the FCC. He is everything that we were afraid Tom Wheeler was going to be, except he actually turned out to be that. So everyone who has been following this knew this is how this was going to unfold. What is important is what happens now. Because now it is out of the hands of a rogue FCC and in the hands of state attorneys and in the hands of Congress. Now, even though the net neutrality order has been repealed, it's going to take several months for it to take effect. So if anybody tells you that net neutrality got repealed but the internet's still fine, that's because it takes several months for those new regulations, that order to take effect. So we are still right now in net neutrality world, and it's going to take a couple of months for those orders that they just passed to take effect, and for us to be in a non-net neutrality world. So anybody who tells you that the internet's still here, like a day or a week after that vote, explain that to them. That it takes time for new rules to take effect. That we're still in the old rules right now. So Now it's in the hands of states in Congress. And what does that mean? Multiple states, I don't have the list on me, but it's a lot. It's like over a dozen at least, have vowed to sue the FCC over their preemption of states' rights to offer net neutrality rules, to basically legislate net neutrality rules within that state. And one of the reasons why the FCC, why they have a case here, is because under Title I, which is what the FCC reclassified the internet as, like in the net neutrality order, they were classified as Title II carriers, which gave the FCC regulatory power over the ISPs, and it gave them full regulatory power. But when they reclassified it under Title I, as part of Ajit Pai's net neutrality order, the FCC essentially ceded all of that authority that they had. So they have no authority. And under legal precedent, because this has been adjudicated before in courts, before the net neutrality order was put in place, under Title I, the FCC doesn't have the authority to do something like that, to tell states they can't regulate ISPs themselves and offer net neutrality legislation. So a list of over a dozen states is now going to be suing the FCC, demanding to know under what authority you think you have now that you have done this to yourself. Do you think you can tell us we cannot do this? So net neutrality is not dead. It is the fight for it has only begun. This was only the beginning. At the same time, the Congressional Review Act, which is what the Republican Party used to get rid of the Affordable Care Act, essentially, or to cripple provisions of it, is being invoked in Congress. And what the Congressional Review Act does is it basically places a hold on resolutions from federal organizations. It can be used to do that. So that those can be vetted, it could be either vetoed or passed by Congress. And so multiple congressmen have vowed that they are going to take this up in the Congressional Review Act and take up this fight in Congress while the legal fight is being fought in the courts. At the same time as that, there is the Electronic Frontier Foundation and a slew of tech giants and tech companies who are going to be filing lawsuits on the FCC's on the general process of this resolution, because this resolution has been the poster, it has been the image of a rogue federal organization. Over 81% of Americans disapproved of getting rid of net neutrality. Over 2 million of the comments for removing net neutrality of the public comments issued have been false. They've been duplicates, they've been dead people, they've been clearly robots, clearly paid for. So there's been a lot of procedural shenanigans and a lot of potential fraud going on with the public commenting period, with Ajit Pai, how Ajit Pai has handled the situation, and if it is found in court that the process of doing this has been found by a judge to be arbitrary and capricious, which is the legal term, which is the legal language it uses, then it is possible to overturn this legislation. Now, the best case scenario would be, I'm not entirely sure, I'm not too familiar with the CRA or the Congressional Review Act. That might be the best case scenario where they can completely overturn this. But the fight is not over. And I saw a fantastic quote on Twitter about this, because the internet has been set on fire. Is a small group of people just rammed this through. Now it falls to a far larger group of people, and larger groups of people, and larger groups of people who are now opposing it. So this was only the beginning. everybody who had been paying attention to Ajit Pai and this whole situation all year knew this was where this was going, knew he was going to have the votes to do this, knew he was not going to stop, because he doesn't care. He is not there to adjudicate federal authority, like, honorably and reasonably. He is not there to be the FCC commissioner. He is there to, he's a lackey. He's a minion. And he was always there to do this. He was always there to take their authority to regulate the telecommunications companies apart. So, this is where this fight is. This is not the first time this fight has come. This is not the first time that we've had to fight for net neutrality. We're just going to have to fight a little bit harder to preserve it. But that fight is worth it. That fight is worth the United States not being dragged further behind the rest of the modern world in terms of telecommunications infrastructure. That fight is worth finally, one day, bringing the ISPs, bringing these major telecommunications companies to answer for taking billions of taxpayer dollars in 1996 to lay fiber infrastructure across the United States and never doing it, in favor of all of the rampant consolidation and paying off of Congress that got us into this mess in the first place. So, I understand this has been a very political video, and I don't normally do that, but this is an important topic. This is something that affects everyone, regardless of what you do or where you are, because so much of the modern world, so much of modern living is now integrated into the internet. You gotta search for work on the internet, you gotta you apply for jobs on the internet. A lot of people work online, a lot of managers work online, a lot of restaurants, a lot of retail stores use online services to conduct their business. And so many people make their livings online, whether they are working on Etsy, or whether they're video producers on YouTube, whether they're streamers on Twitch. So many people make their livelihood online. So many millions of people will be affected by this if it is not fought and defeated, and net neutrality is not restored. Then millions of people may lose their livelihood. So this is important. This is a big deal, and that's why this video's a pretty political one. If you're in the United States and you haven't yet called, and you're of legal age, you haven't called your congressman, do so now. Do so right now. Stop this video, go to Battle for the Net down below, find out who your representatives are, and email them, call them. Because this affects all of us, regardless of your walk of life. And it affects our country. This doesn't happen elsewhere. Other countries have fiber optic internet and cable networks, like the ones that we paid billions of dollars for the ISPs to put down that they never did in 1996. Other countries have that. We don't. Other countries have gigabit internet. We don't. Other countries are selling gigabit internet at gigabit speeds at $100 discounts. That's not true here. We're behind because of shit like this. We're behind because of the sociopathic greed of these companies and all the politicians and federal employees that they have bought, like Ajit Pai. People like him have dragged us behind the modern world in terms of communications infrastructure, and it's time for there to be a reckoning, like in a legal space. It's time for there to be a reckoning for that in Congress. So please, call. Thank you for your time.